Okay, today we've got a video about the tech billionaires' growing influence and control over the media. We know Elon Musk owns X and he spouts a lot of propaganda from that. He's really turned it into a tool for himself. More on that later, but I want to concentrate on Peter Thiel, who isn't really talked about as much. He's not really in the public eye so much, although he has been from time to time. And today I want to play a snippet and I'll react to it. This interview that the Vanguard did with author Owen Higgins, who wrote this book recently. I've read it, it's a good book. It's Owned: How Tech Billionaires on the Right Bought the Loudest Voices on the Left. And what they mean by that is Glenn Greenwald and Matt Taibbi. He's pointing out that, but it also involves Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and other tech billionaires and how they fund the media. And he thinks that they've bought these journalists, highly respected journalists of the past, have moved way over to the right. And so these two videos about this, we've got two different videos. I'm going to react to them. As I said, one on the politics channel, which I'll point you to later on in this video if you're interested in that. But let's get into this and I will react to it.
Musk is completely consumed by like his insecurity, right? And Thiel, I don't think is to the extent that Thiel's insecurity drives him. I think that it's like kind of like a motivator for him to get back at people and to attack people, while Musk just like desperately wants to be loved. And then if you don't love him, he hates you forever. Thiel, I think, is like more calculating, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so these two go back to PayPal. They're part of the PayPal mafia. They're kind of frenemies, but they do have a lot of influence, both of them in different ways. Elon Musk in there with Doge doing things in a big way. Thiel in the background, but he did fund JD Vance, which is talked about, I think, in this video or the other video. So they both have a lot of power, these people, and Thiel has been involved in attacking the media. He really doesn't like it, which we'll find out in these two videos. And he got rid of Gawker. He sued Gawker at one time for saying things that he didn't like. I mean, they weren't great things, but we'll get into that too.
No, well, that's actually one of the main reasons that I thought this conversation would be so important, Owen, because, you know, you write so much about Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel is such a powerful person. He's so central to a lot of the politics that we're discussing and the ideological movements within the Republican Party. And I feel like, you know, one thing that this show might be guilty of is not focusing enough on him, you know, focusing more on Elon Musk because he's so, you know, cartoonish and stupid, and, you know, he does so many embarrassing things. I think Peter Thiel kind of is, like you said, more sophisticated. He kind of hides in the shadows more and you know, pulls the strings in a more hidden way. So if you could kind of just break down for our audience the actual, you know, provable influence that Peter Thiel specifically has over the right-wing media.
Yeah, so I feel the same way about my videos. Obviously, if you go back, there's all of them about Elon Musk, about Tesla. That's how it's evolved. And I've done one or two about Thiel, but he does have a big influence on American society now. And these tech billionaires are in a place to influence the government. That's why it's so important to talk about this stuff right now. And Peter Thiel is part of it. He funded JD Vance, and he's been involved in politics, funding Trump in the last administration. So he is an important figure, and arguably don't talk about him enough because he's not. He's sort of more in the background.
Thiel invested in Rumble. He led a funding round in Rumble in May of 2021. It was Thiel and JD Vance led this funding round. And
you catch that? JD Vance and Peter Thiel funded a round of funding for Rumble, which is really a right-wing kind of YouTube. They say free speech version of YouTube, but really it's more right-wing. Glenn Greenwald went over there and was paid to do a show there, to go over there.
In August of 2021, Rumble started giving deals to people to come on to the platform to start making their shows, and one of the first ones was to Glenn. It was announced the same day as one to Tulsi Gabbard. So
So Glenn Greenwald, you might remember, was involved in the Edward Snowden story I've talked about in recent videos. So Edward Snowden picked him out, and over the years after the breaking that story and becoming actually famous as a journalist from doing that, he moved more and more to the right. Glenn Greenwald did. I've noticed this, so it's interesting that Owen is talking about this or even writing a book about it, because I have noticed that over time, and even in his recent shows, he's sort of backing off from criticizing Trump administration heavily. He has been talking about the due process, the lack of due process, but really he held off from that. He was involved in talking about this surveillance state and all that stuff, but he has been concentrating on Israel and Palestine recently, and not so much on domestic US, I've noticed, and definitely kind of more pandering to perhaps a right-wing audience which has developed.
I think that it strains credulity to think that like there's no influence here from that money. But saying that aside,
by the way, just to cut in real quick, I remember when that happened, and they actually bragged about Tulsi's hire as proof that, oh no, we're not a right wing media company. We just hired this prominent Democratic ex Congresswoman to do a show. See, we're platforming leftists.
yeah. I mean, she was actually the lead of the article in the Washington Post, I think, that had the exclusive on it. But it is kind of funny that with Glenn, they were like, yeah, but he is right wing, so we'll just like whatever. For his actual influence, though, I think his deeper influence, more than just Rumble, it goes into all of the politicians that he has invested in. And if you want to go into like all of his different like cultural and news media investments, we could be sitting here for. I mean, I could just read from Malcolm Harris's Palo Alto. I mean, he has like 7 pages.
That's a book that I'm reading right now, actually, because of Owen's recommendation. I've been meaning to read it. It is a long book, but it goes through the history of California, really capitalism California, and it has this section on the internet boom and Peter Thiel and the PayPal mafia, all that stuff. It's really interesting if you're interested in that book as well.
Of just going like, one after another, and that book came out like 2 or 3 years ago, so it's only continued. Thiel has thrown tons of money into shaping cultural and media kind of narratives and thought. Like over the Dime Square stuff in New York, that little cultural scene. A lot of that is funded by Thiel. There's Thiel money in like kind of all of these different podcasts.
There's something I've heard about Thiel money involved in that. Those group of people, the Dime Square, if you don't know, New York Dime Square, Red Scare podcast is part of that scene. I have listened to quite a few episodes of that. And it's interesting because they have gone way to the right as well. They supported Trump. And it was unclear whether it was kind of ironic to begin with, but definitely not. It's been sort of quite reactionary. And it's funny because with Dasha, one of those people got famous from, you might remember Sailor Socialism, a viral video where she was talking to the InfoWars people, and she was basically a socialist back then. She supported Bernie Sanders. So she's gone through this transition from Bernie Sanders to Trump, and Curtis Yarvin, who doesn't want democracy in the US. I've talked about him in videos before. So that kind of thinking. So, and I think I heard them say on the podcast they weren't funded by Thiel. They were joking about it, but I don't know. And Owen seems to know, but I don't know if that's correct or not. But there's a group of podcasters there with big audiences based in New York, Dime Square, which is on the Lower East Side, as I understand it.
Outside of that, I would say that he is one of J.D. Vance's like earliest and strongest supporters. J.D. Vance and him, I think they worked together in Silicon Valley. And then when J.D. wanted to become the senator from Ohio, Thiel, I think, was one of, or if not his biggest donor. Blake Masters, failed Senate candidate from Arizona, another example. Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Ron Paul, Trump himself in 2016, not so much in 2024, but also in 2020. This guy has had his money behind a lot of the people who have shaped Republican politics over the last decade or 2 decades.
So Thiel, he's talking about here, has funded politicians, including J.D. Vance, who could be the next president, who knows, and funding Trump as well, and putting money into right-wing media to encourage and to support. So he has got a lot of influence this way.
That has paid off for him in that he has like a role in the party now. He has influence. But I think that to go back to Musk, I think this is where you see Thiel's influence the most. So Thiel, one of the reasons that Thiel is so rich is that he co-founded PayPal with Elon Musk at the end of the 90s. And then they sold that to eBay. And I think they sold it for like $1 billion or something like that, which at the time was, quite a bit of money. And then it still is quite a bit of money, but at the point that these guys are at now,
boys with $1 billion only. I don't know.
Right, yeah, only $1 billion, only a single billion.
So that was the platform that a lot of those PayPal mafia people used to go onto other things, including David Sachs as well and others.
They both ended up with hundreds of millions of dollars. They both invested in different things, and one of the things that Thiel did was he co-founded Palantir, which
we know for a fact Palantir, as early as the time that Ro Khanna was investing in them, was profiting off of collaborating with ICE, and he responded.
Yes, and so I think they've just got a new contract with ICE. I was reading on 404 Media, I think. So Palantir having either a new contract or extended contract with ICE to help gather up these immigrants to deport them.
Public pressure and sold. But I'm just like, that shows you how even the people who are on the progressive left are being infected by this Peter Thiel money because it's such a good stock investment, because they knew, and their accountants knew, and their stockbrokers knew, hey, you invest in this, it's going to go up, because guess who just got reelected president, right? Peter Thiel has this reputation as like a kingmaker in Silicon Valley. He's one of the most successful and well-known, kind of venture capital investors. He does a ton of angel investing in incubators. He really makes his presence known there. And even though Elon Musk, Sergey Brin, a lot of these other guys, they have more money in terms of Silicon Valley social capital and pernicious influence, I feel like Peter Thiel almost dwarfs all of them because of his Rolodex, right? All of the people he knows, all the dinners he's had, all of the dirt he has on everyone.
I think that's really sharp, and I think that it's good to distinguish social capital from financial capital, right? Because Thiel has this reputation now as an angel investor or as a kingmaker, but for a long time he didn't, in part because he stupidly sold a bunch of his Facebook stock before Facebook blew up. And for a long time, that was the narrative around Thiel, because early on, Palantir made almost all of its money off of government contracts. In fact, the government was the only source of its income, I think, for the first 6 or 7 years of its existence. So Thiel's outside investments weren't really paying off quite as well. Now Thiel has not only the social capital of being kingmaker, but also as Trump's kind of longtime voice in Silicon Valley, even though that kind of fell off a little bit over the last year. But I think now he's kind of back.
Yeah, he is back. So, yes, I mean, I could just do just as many videos as I have on Elon Musk and Tesla. I could do just as many on Peter Thiel and Palantir, his media influence. As I said, he's a bit more in the background. And so Elon Musk is right there, right out in front, as much media attention as he can get. Thiel's more in the background. Again, if you want to read this book, I'll put a link to the book in the description if you want to check that book out. And the other video will be this one on the Politics channel. I'm going to publish them both at the same time. I'm just about to record that video. So look for that over there, and I'll put a link in the pinned comment to that and in the description if you want to go and see that video. It is the new Politics channel. That'll be the newest video on there. Those are the videos there already. If you're not subscribed, do. If you're interested in this kind of thing, we'll be more political like this. So go over there if you want to. And right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a link there to a related video. Do go and see that now if you want to. And a subscribe link on screen. Do subscribe here if you're not already. And thanks for watching this one. And I'll see you in the next one.